Part 16 of Depraved by Brian Smith. So I think what pisses me off most about the character Jessica is that she's so full of herself. I mean, as she's about to kill the character William, who is clearly having an episode. If you suffer from panic attacks, you know how just debilitating that is. And she kind of makes fun of how he looks as he's sobbing as she tied, duct tape around his face. Sweating, he's crying, he's shaking, and she's like, ew, that fat man over there just looks so bad. And as she comes back by the request of her father to get rid of the witness, she sits there with the gun pointed at him instead of just, getting it over and done with, immediately. She sits there and has, a supervillain's monologue to his face while he's sweating, shaking, and crying. William, I don't think this makes me a bad person. I do what I have to do to survive. You were just wrong place, wrong time. You just wouldn't understand, William. I've had a hell of a day. I was R-worded today. Yeah, that's right. Taken advantage of like that. You just wouldn't understand. I hate to do this, William. I really do. But you're in the way of the rest of my life. And as she's talking, pointing the pew-pew stick at his face, he's still sweating and crying. The tears are falling and he's just pleading with his eyes to spare him. And she's like, oh, my day just sucks so bad. I hate my life because it's not going the way I want. And then she kills him. Boo, bitch. So now we go back to Pete and Justine as they snuck into the Prestons' house. Justine is wielding that chainsaw that she stole from the tool shed. Justine quickly rummaged through the drawers inside the Prestons' house and found a big gun. Justine handed the pew-pew stick to Pete and he was terrified. Justine, you're not gonna use the chainsaw on them, are you? But why did you hand me the gun? A bullet to the head would just let them off easy. That's why I have the saw. I want them to suffer. Then she started the saw, and the Prestons began to wake up as the saw revved. Of course, they freaked out, and it was just Gil and Mama Preston. Gil freaked out, Mama Preston got up and lunged at Pete, and Pete shot her immediately in the shoulder. And this whole scene was just kind of overkill and over the top. Justine separated both of them. She took Gil into the kitchen and left Mama Preston with Pete in the living room. Gil kind of called their bluff that, you ain't gonna use that thing's weight thing. And Pete, you don't have the guts to shoot us, even though he just shot Mama. And to quickly sum up the scene, Gil was forced on the ground. Wrists and ankles were tied to, I think, the corners of a steel table. And then it was described that he was on top of the table. Pete put the gun down and grabbed a big knife and, he went from being scared and not wanting to do this to, mentally snapping and wanting bloodshed. He grabbed a big knife, forced Mama on her knees on the ground, and, began to scalp her right in front of her son. He ripped the cut scalp off of her head and then went over to Pete while Justine watched and, was really liking what she saw. Pete was, having this weird monologue, and he's like, Gil, you need a new hairdo. This gave me Joker vibes. You know how I got these scars? Gil, you could use a new hairdo. You're not looking too good over there, Gil. He grabbed Mama's scalped head, or the hair that he just ripped from her scalp, went over to Gil and stretched the flesh over his own head, so now he was wearing his own mother's scalp and hair. Oh, Gil, you've done it again. You look great. Look at that locks. Look at how they frame your face. You look incredible. And then Pete takes the saw from Justine, looks at her, and he said, I'm gonna take this one. And then, dramatically begins just
Gil, I think it's time you lost a little weight. And then begin hacking at his gut and, like, ripping through his bowels while he's strapped to the table. Blood everywhere, organs everywhere, and then he, like, castrated Gil with the saw. And then the scene just gets fucking weirder, and Justine begins cutting strips of flesh from Mama's body. And as Pete is sawing through Gil's body like it's butter, he smells something delicious cooking on the stovetop, and he turns around to see Justine is frying up the quartered flesh of Mama like bacon. And Pete just smiles and laughs to himself like, aha, you gotta eat the cannibals. Victims of cannibals become cannibals to the cannibals. Cannibalception. So as Abby and Michelle escape through the woods to the Collier's house, Abby describes how the holidays dinners are used as offerings to ward off Garner's blight. So they believe that, these sacrifices for their holiday dinners kind of keep their families or their clans alive and safe from Garner's demonic magic stuff. Michelle is still sassy and rude and giving Abby a lot of crap. They arrived at the Colliers pretty quick, and Michelle hid in the woods as Abby went right inside to get the keys to the car. One of the town boys named Keith was with Lorianne Collier, spicing it up in the kitchen. And Abby's just like, can I use your car? I really want to get some beer. I just want to go into town. I'll be right back. And they're like, yeah, that's fine, but shit, Abby, you looking real good tonight. That'd be a shame if you came and joined us. And she's like, well, maybe later. Let me just get the beers first. I just need the keys in your car. They're like, all right, yeah, that's fine, but hurry back. So Abby grabs the keys to the vehicle. They went outside. Michelle met back up with Abby, and they went right to the shed where Michelle's friend Lisa is naked and chained up. Lisa is described as a bigger girl, and Abby immediately just didn't like her because she was, jiggly. God forbid people have normal body types. And Abby got a little jealous because Michelle now is giving another girl more attention than Abby wanted, even though Michelle has been treating her like crap. And I guess they took too long because immediately Abby turned around and heard Keith approaching the shed. Abby closed the shed with Lisa and Michelle inside and tried to distract Keith. Oh, Keith, yeah, I was just about to get the car and go get those beers. Why don't you, warm up Lorelai for me? Or Lorianne, or whatever her name is. Oh, baby girl, Abby, you be looking so fine tonight. I actually, I came out here because Lorelai is ready for you. She's already been warmed up. She wants you inside right now. And, Abby couldn't get away from him, so she kind of dropped a quick hint to get Michelle out here and get him. So Abby knocked Abby knocked Keith over, and Michelle and Lisa barged out of the shed and began just stabbing him over and over and over. Lisa grabbed a brick and smashed in his face until he died. They loaded up in the car and drove out of there as fast as they could. And while they were in the car driving away, Michelle was driving and Abby was sitting in the passenger seat, and Michelle's just like, Abby, I just want to thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate all that you've done for me. What are the directions to get out of here? And Abby finally felt better about actually getting positive attention from Michelle. Told her, just take 2 lefts and you will get to the interstate, and then you'll be home free. And Michelle's just like, oh my gosh, Abby, just thank you so much. You're so pretty. Thank you. It is the 2 lefts, and then we'll hit the interstate. Oh, thank you, Michelle. Yeah, it's just the 2 lefts. The interstate should be coming up here pretty soon. And then without warning, Michelle grabs her dad's hunting knife, Abby's dad's hunting knife, and just stabbed her in the stomach and chest over and over and over. Abby felt immense betrayal as Michelle pulled over, ripped Abby's body out of the car, and they drove away, leaving Abby in the middle of the woods by herself to die.